Welcome back. It is Friday the 28th, and I did the cell phone CapCut video already. It's been posted, very short description and follow-up of the battle. So this is going from the Monday 2024 fight. The big issue with my approach to Alpha Strike is I don't mind changing up my playstyle. I really do enjoy teaching people out, day job. But I do enjoy the chaos of asymmetrical warfare. Um, Alpha Strike has done a beautiful job with the rules creation from Catalyst in the years of development, including when it was initially Quick Strike to now it's Alpha Strike, and it was originally Battle Force and Battle Force 2 to what the monster is today, the system, and how it can lend itself to creative gameplay, but you still lose the nuance and the crunchiness of accounting tech. Yeah, I call it accounting tech. Be offended. Um, my regular opponent lately has been a friend of the family for 30 years, and I've been bringing him up to speed with C3 systems, ECM bubbles, and tactics. However, there are some things that you can't fix. The primary example of something you can't fix is playstyle. If you're not used to playing aggressive and you're castling or defending, you have an issue. The other side of that is when you are over aggressive and you have nothing to lose and you're playing in your opponent's face. Alpha Strike doesn't favor either opponent. It favors dice rolls and the overall strategy that you have. So my other regular opponent from my Monday night, Jacob, um, he has learned a lot of the techniques I taught him, and he applies them admirably. And he's developed counters to my normal strategy. So I have to play differently with him as well as every opponent that I have. After playing against, or like martial artists, when you spar against your same sparring partner for so long, you picked up their poker face, you picked up all their tells, you know what their motivations are. You're sitting there either going all in or you are trying to counter what you're expecting. So what I've been doing as part of my training for C3 series is that I have been setting up either all C3 and ECM forces, 50-50s, or no C3 at all, and just budgeting bulk firepower over quality or variations of each. For example, I've been using peregrines for the past 3 years now because if you played any of the MechWarrior games, you know that the most cheapest common vehicle that they're going to throw at you is a peregrine or some kind of VTOL with SRMs and machine guns and lasers or autocannons or something. What you're looking for in this bat rep is that I'm explaining where the objectives are, what my strategy was. I'll discuss my list in a little bit, and I want to post it. Let me see if I can find it really quick. So you're looking at what the plan was, what the concept going forward was, and how some people just didn't respond to it. Now, not necessarily saying my opponent didn't respond to it. It's some of the experts, quote unquote, have their preferences on how you set your forces, how you build them, what your list is. And I'm going to pull up my list a different way while I'm still talking. So the other big concept that I want to touch on briefly is not everyone has the bandwidth or capacity for large games, and that's perfectly fine. No one's feelings are going to get hurt. And I want to share my screen. So I'll turn off Adobe. We get it. The Monday list was two Shiltron Fs with IF-4, two Challenger MBT-12 battle tanks. I did not do the traditional C3 network. I had two masters in the command lines, and then I separated out. I think it's configuration one. So the Naginata Kuma Thunder Thanatos, and then the next lance was two Grand Dragons, a Hunchback 5P, a Suginja 8H. The one with the ECM does less damage. And then that was my high-end C3 company. The other the other group that I rolled was four Hetzer basic assault guns, four basic Peregrines, two LRM carriers, two Ontos tanks, two Gabriels, and a Ferret. And the goal was concentrated firepower versus Russian lines. As you watch this battle report, keep in mind that I purposely try to confuse, disavow, hide, ambush, patrol, strike, burn objectives, and push my opponent's button. It's not just a war game that I'm playing. I am literally trying to do everything in my power to take out priority targets. Priority targets, since my opponent has come up with our in-house model for the sprint, and I'll show pictures. It's basically a resin casted mold helicopter with propellers. Because we have all started using sprints in our C3 companies or hovercrafts that are fast in our C3 companies. I pull the Akuma 2X because it has flak. And then there's another unit in here that has flak. I just don't remember what it is. Actually, no, that was the only one I had with flak. So I had a better shot of shooting down sprints, but I was also using the C3 network with ECM to isolate the ferrets coming in to shoot them down. And if you notice that both Shiltrons have ECM, both Challengers have ECM, and then the Hunchback 5P and the Suginja have ECM. So effectively, that's 60, and then a Thanatos. So that's 7 ECMs protecting my network. In ECCM mode, that he would have to have 8 units to keep his ECM and C3 networks active. To shut mine off. So as we go through the battle report, that's the number one thing I wanted everyone to be aware of. I had 7 ECMs. The reason why I did not bubble up is 3 reasons. One, I built my opponent's list to teach him fundamentals of force suppression warfare. 2, I know he didn't have artillery, but just in case he switched his list, I didn't want to have everything in one section getting bombarded. Now, he did have an Arrow 4 carrier with 2 Arrow 4s per turn. I did make that a target priority so I wouldn't get bombed to death. So with that, let's get this video started. Thanks for sticking with me. And as always, Mecha Madness. Some of my new buildings are featured in the video. I'll link them in the description for Colts. And then if you're on the other side of the pond, across the Atlantic, I will link it to my digital taxidermy shop profile. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Welcome back. Deployment is in the shorter video that you can find linked in the description. Going into turn 1, we all flanked out. You're looking at the Star Blades as they are going around the table, hiding from line of sight. They do have indirect fire forces, but they're also trying to establish their snipers and their ECM networks to block. The Spiders moved up to get to the center objective, which was center. I had to also look at, they have 3 sprints. He has a full C3 company versus a C3 Lance, but he also has other flying support. The big thing is that my force is underbalanced. meaning that in the center of the board, I only have the indirect fire line supporting the central objective. My mechs and most of my tanks are flanked out to the right. And with that, I only have one mech and a couple of other small forces on the left flank pushing forward. So, with that, this is not going to be a easy ride. All right. As we're slowly leaning in, and you're looking at the sides of the table, we're coming over to the west side. I've lost so far one of my Ontoses. I'm about to lose the second one. My Thanatos is taking a pop shot at Savannah Master. My Gabriels are shooting at his Savannah Master, however, we didn't miss. The goal for this side of the table was to do long straight shots at his shooting team. You see my shield trends that are hiding behind cover. My helicopters, Peregrines, have gone forward. My mech forces are flanking out. And my Sunder is doing what it can to maintain area control. The goal here is to prevent my opponent from having an opportunity to countermand. He did make the mistake of moving his Grand Dragon up there with the sprint. I was able to get in behind the Grand Dragon and layer in some damage the next turn, during this turn with the Hunchback. My opponent is not playing in a truly aggressive format, so meaning that he's leaving himself vulnerable to one-offs and sniper runs. The goal for me strategically was to eliminate his artillery support, eliminate his indirect fire as much as possible, while taking pop shot at his mechs. Anything that he gave me, including his Warhammers, was planned to be a systematic shutdown of his firepower. Now, as we go over the top, for this scenario, helicopters do not count for holding objectives. I was just trying to deter him from the objective. When you look at the middle now, my Peregrines, the two Grand Dragons, and the other vehicle forces are trying to control the flank. I have snuck a Hetzer underneath the parking garage structure so it can survive a turn. This turn was more or less trying to establish dominance in one quarter or the other. I overestimated what he was going to drive towards the west objective, which is why the Thanatos is going to end up staying over there by itself. The shield trims were strategically parked so they could be within 3 inches of the target building just by driving up the ramp. The mech forces on the western flank were literally there to come out and try to do a smash and grab of that objective, or at least contest it. Now, it didn't work out initially because my opponent kept playing hide and go seek with his indirect fire support. Again, having scenario based play for Alpha Strike does give an opportunity for non aggressive players to learn some form of aggression. However, one of the lucky things that we did manage to pull with all the snake eyes I was rolling was sniping out the Warhammer that you saw on its back. We did snipe out the Hunchback up front using the shot from the Hunchback, my Hunchback, and the Grand Dragon over the wall. The goal was to systematically break down his faster units and his network so that way he couldn't rush my objectives. However, it was hard hunting down Savannah Masters. Going into this turn, my objective was to hunt down his Aero 4 carrier and trade a lot of shots. We cracked his Hunchback, cracked his Grand Dragon, and I lost several Hetzers. Hetzers are a grade 15-point model, AC 20, and medium range threat, 32 inches of threat range. My Naginata got beat up as well as my Shugenja. That's why the Shugenja is hiding behind the wall. My Hunchback is getting into position. The Thanatos cracked a ferret, luckily with a high dice roll. There's no one on the west objective. The green Warhammer's on its objective. So the plan continues to be holding him at bay with threats of long-range fire. On the other side, you see my two Challenger 12 MBT main battle tanks getting into position. There was a lot of indirect fire exchanges turn. As we come around, you see the Peregrines dealing with that. And there's no commitment in the opponent's forces. Again, he's a non-aggressive player. We did crack a LRM carrier. The goal of this training series was to get the non-aggressive player to find a level of aggression. So the plan was to go ahead and harass the flank, shoot up specific units. I lost one of my LRM carriers. I was being bold, but he did lose a ferret and he lost another helicopter. My peregrine is down in front of the Mitsubishi symbol. So right now on the center objective, it is his 5 to my 2, and then next turn will be the firefight. Now it's going to be interesting because this is where he could have won the game, charging forward and owning the majority of the table. Turn 5 is going to be rough going towards the end of the game. I'm in my pre-setup position at the end of turn 4. But what I did with my laser line is to show you the multiple shots that were available during turn 5. Now, when you look at the setup, the Naginata in turn 4 could have moved to help reinforce the center objective. Right now it's 2 spiders, 2 mechs, my helicopters, my Shugenja, and Akuma looking at the center objective. None of his fast-moving forces ever made it to the rear left objective on the far left underneath my hand and watch. These are the shots for the west objective. The main thing we were looking for was how he was going to try to attempt to come back. Again, non-aggressive player versus aggressive player. And if we're playing for objectives, which are pretty beautifully located, there's 2 on the far left of the screen at the top, past the Mitsubishi symbol. There's a 2 in the middle and 1 on the right. With a total of 32 units at his disposal, not including the helicopters, but not including them for scoring purposes, he had over 27 models with which to take an objective. The plan was to teach him how to use his list, how to do his C3 networks and bubbles, and then how to get into the end of the match. So by the end of the game, which this video is that my Naginata and Sunder are holding down with 1 Hetzer the west objective. Coming around, his Grand Dragon is still good. That's my Grand Dragon shooting his Akuma in the back. Naginata took out his Sunder, took out his 2 mechs. It didn't finish off the spiders, but I have a heavy mech and an assault mech on the objective, which is claimed by me. He has the far west objective, and he owns that objective with the 2 archers on the ground. So the score is 3-2. My tanks in the middle are holding my home objective. So it was a great game, just brutal at the last 2 turns. If you enjoyed the video, here's the top-down video picture of the central objective. My Shugenja, my Akuma are within 3 inches of the objective. My Hunchback didn't make it. We popped his Shugenja and his other Hunchback. He still had the spiders left, but another turn we would have been cleaning up. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Leave me a comment if you want to discuss other ideas, tactics, or lists for me to run. And as always, thank you for checking out Mecha Madness.